Chosen one, let me ask you something that's going to shake you to your core. Have you been feeling it lately? That electric tension crackling through the atmosphere around you? That inexplicable heaviness pressing against your chest when you wake up at 3 a.m., absolutely knowing that something monumental is about to unfold? You're not losing your mind. You're not being paranoid. And you're certainly not imagining the spiritual warfare that's been intensifying around your life these past few weeks. What you're sensing is real, and what I'm about to reveal to you, it's something the enemy has been desperately trying to keep hidden from the chosen ones. This is not a coincidence that brought you here today. This isn't random. This isn't YouTube's algorithm playing games with your feed. This is a divine appointment. Heaven itself orchestrated this moment because you have been marked for something extraordinary, something that will happen this very week. For months, dark forces have been whispering lies in your ear, telling you that you're forgotten, that your prayers bounce off the ceiling, that your calling was just wishful thinking. They've been working overtime to convince you that the spiritual attacks you've been experiencing are just life happening. But what if I told you they were terrified? What if I told you that every betrayal, every isolation, every moment you felt abandoned was actually God positioning you for the most profound revelation of your lifetime? What if everything they told you about spiritual power was a lie designed to keep you small? You see, there are truths hidden in the heavenly realms that were never meant for human eyes, sacred mysteries that even angels long to understand. And this week, not next month, not someday this week, the veil is going to be pulled back for you in a way that will leave you breathless. They tried to stop you from seeing this message. They sent distractions, family drama, sudden emergencies, anything to prevent you from being here right now. But you made it. Because what God has ordained, no force in hell can cancel. Thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith. What I'm about to show you will challenge everything you thought you knew about your purpose, your protection, and your proximity to the throne room of God. You'll discover why the enemy has been so relentless in attacking you, why certain people suddenly turned against you, and why you felt like you're living between two worlds. But first, you need to understand what happened 3 nights ago in the spiritual realm when a battalion of demonic forces received an emergency order to target every chosen one on earth. And what happened next made the darkness tremble. Are you ready to see what no human was ever meant to see? Chosen one, let me tell you what's been happening to you these past few weeks and why it's driving you to the edge of wonder. You've been feeling it, haven't you? That inexplicable restlessness crawling beneath your skin like electricity before a storm. That sacred static humming in the atmosphere around you, making your soul feel like it's standing on the edge of eternity itself. You wake up at 3 a.m. with your heart pounding, not from fear, but from something you can't name but can't ignore. They told you it was anxiety. They said you were overthinking, being too sensitive, reading too much into the signs. But deep in your spirit, you knew better. You knew this wasn't panic, this was preparation. The pressure you feel isn't chaos, it's prophecy in progress. Let me tell you what's really been happening while the world sleeps. Heaven has been whispering, not in the gentle, barely audible way most people expect divine communication to come. No, this has been the kind of whisper that shakes foundations, the kind that makes demons flee and angels stand at attention. And you, chosen one, you've been chosen to hear it first. You weren't paranoid. You were being summoned. That weight pressing against your chest, that's not depression or spiritual warfare trying to crush you. That's the weight of glory preparing to rest upon you. That restless energy keeping you awake, that's heaven downloading divine intelligence into your spirit while your mind was quiet enough to receive it. That strange disconnection you felt from people and places that used to comfort you, that's God pulling you away from distractions because something sacred is about to unfold. You see, the veil between heaven and earth has been thinning around your life. Not for everyone, just for you. And when that happens, when eternity starts bleeding through into time, your soul feels it before your mind can process it. That's why you've been restless. That's why nothing feels quite normal anymore. That's why you keep looking over your shoulder, sensing something momentous, approaching like thunder in the distance. The enemy has been working overtime to convince you that this tension is his doing, that he's the one stirring up chaos in your atmosphere. But what if I told you he's not the conductor of this symphony? What if I told you he's just as confused as everyone else about what's brewing around your life? What if the very thing that's been making you feel unsettled is the same thing that's been making hell tremble? Because here's what the darkness doesn't want you to know. Spiritual tension is often the sign that revelation is near. That uncomfortable, unexplainable pressure you've been carrying. It's not a burden, it's a signal. A divine frequency that only chosen vessels can detect. You've been tuned to hear what others can't, feel what others miss, and sense what others dismiss as coincidence. This week, not someday, not eventually this week, that whisper is about to become a roar. What's been hidden in the shadows of the spiritual realm is about to step into the light of your reality. And you, chosen one, you've been prepared for this moment through every sleepless night, every unexplained tear, every moment you felt like you were losing your mind. You weren't losing anything. You were being found. Found by the one who sees what others overlook, who calls forth what others think is impossible. The whisper has been calling your name, and now it's time for the veil to break. They thought fear would break you. It backfired. Chosen one, let me tell you something that's going to stop your heart and restart it at the same time. All those years when you felt like you were drowning in confusion, when betrayal came from people you trusted most, when doors slammed shut in your face and you wondered if God had forgotten your address. You weren't just going through hard times. You were being watched. Not by nosy neighbors, not by gossiping church members, not even by the people who stabbed you in the back and then had the audacity to ask why you were bleeding. You were under divine surveillance. Hell's eyes were on you, but so were God's. Every sleepless night when you cried yourself into exhaustion, thinking you were alone, heaven was taking notes. Every time you chose forgiveness when revenge would have felt so much sweeter, angels were witnessing. Every moment you stayed faithful when faith felt like foolishness. The throne room was documenting your resilience. You see, spiritual warfare isn't always attack. Sometimes it's observation. The enemy wasn't just trying to destroy you. He was studying you, watching how you handled pressure, testing your breaking point, measuring your loyalty to God when God seemed silent. Hell wanted to know, is this one really chosen, or just another pretender who'll fold when things get ugly? But here's what the darkness never anticipated. You didn't fold. You didn't flee. You didn't flinch. You stood there in the fire and refused to burn. They sent betrayal. You chose forgiveness. They sent isolation. You chose prayer. They sent confusion. You chose to trust God anyway. And with every choice, every stand, every tear that fell in secret, heaven was building a case file on your character. You weren't losing. You were being documented. The courtroom of eternity was watching a live demonstration of what happens when heaven's DNA gets planted in human soil. They saw you get knocked down 7 times and get up 8. They watched you forgive people who never asked for forgiveness. They witnessed you bless those who cursed you, pray for those who used you, and still show up to church when church people showed you their true colors. And all that time you thought you were failing some kind of spiritual test. No, beloved, you were passing it with honors. The enemy marked you as a threat long before you knew your name was written in the scroll. That's why the attacks were so relentless. That's why the betrayals cut so deep. That's why you felt like you had a target on your back everywhere you went. Because you did. But what hell meant for evil, heaven was orchestrating for evidence. Every wound became a witness. Every scar became a signature of your survival. Every broken place became a breakthrough waiting to happen. You didn't know it then, but you were building a reputation in the spirit realm. Word was spreading through heavenly corridors. This one can be trusted. This one won't quit. This one will stand when standing is all they have left. The surveillance is over now, chosen one. The test results are in. And heaven's verdict? You're not just chosen, you're proven. That's why what's coming this week is going to shake you to your core. Because God doesn't just reveal secrets to anyone. He reveals them to those who've been tested under pressure and found faithful. To those who've been watched in secret and stayed pure. To those who've been documented in darkness and still chose to shine. You survived the surveillance. Now comes the revelation. They thought they cut you off. God was cutting the cord to deception. Chosen one, let me tell you what really happened when they slammed that door in your face, when they stopped returning your calls, when they made you feel like you were too much, too deep, too intense for their shallow waters. You thought you were being rejected. But heaven was orchestrating the greatest redirection of your lifetime. Every room they shut you out of was a room God was protecting you from. Every circle that labeled you as difficult was a circle that would have contaminated your calling. Every person who turned cold wasn't walking away from you, they were being removed from your path before they could poison your purpose. You see, God doesn't just elevate his chosen ones. He evacuates them first. He pulls them out of contaminated atmospheres, away from people who would have dulled their discernment, separated them from environments that would have suffocated their spirit. What felt like abandonment was actually divine extraction. Their exit was heaven's entrance. Think about it. Every door that closed forced you into solitude. And in that solitude, what happened? Your prayer life deepened. Your discernment sharpened. Your relationship with the Almighty became unshakable. You stopped looking for validation from people who were never qualified to recognize your worth in the first place. They whispered behind your back, called you strange, said you'd changed. And you know what? They were right. You had changed. You'd been upgraded. You'd been refined in the fire of rejection until every false thing burned away, leaving only pure gold. What they saw as your breakdown was actually your breakthrough into a dimension they couldn't even imagine. Here's what they didn't understand. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. Every earthly eviction was a spiritual redirection, guiding you away from counterfeit connections and toward your divine appointment. God was clearing the stage, removing every distraction, every compromise, every person who would have talked you out of your destiny. You felt the sting of their judgment. You carried the weight of their misunderstanding. You wondered if something was wrong with you because you could no longer tolerate surface-level relationships, empty conversations, and spiritual mediocrity. But there was nothing wrong with you. You were simply outgrowing their frequency. The rooms they locked you out of were rooms where your light would have been dimmed. The tables they didn't save a seat for were tables where your appetite for the sacred would have been mocked. The conversations they excluded you from were conversations that would have polluted your pure heart with gossip, bitterness, and small thinking. God knew that where he was taking you, you couldn't drag dead weight. He knew that the revelation he was about to release through you required a clean vessel, an uncompromised spirit, a heart that beat in rhythm with heaven alone. So he allowed the rejection. He permitted the isolation. He orchestrated the separation. And while they celebrated your absence, thinking they'd finally gotten rid of the one who made them uncomfortable with truth, God was preparing your emergence. While they gossiped about your departure, heaven was documenting their betrayal. While they moved on without you, you were moving up without them. Their rejection wasn't your punishment, chosen one. It was your protection. It was God's way of saying, not them, not there, not yet. I have something better, something pure, something worthy of who you're becoming. The door they closed was never your door anyway. It was a test, a detour, a divine setup to position you for the real opening that was always meant for you. They thought they silenced you. God was tuning your voice for a greater audience. They told you to wait for God's timing, but chosen one, you are God's timing. This week, something ancient stirred in your bones. You felt it, didn't you? That strange sensation like you'd lived this moment before, like your soul was remembering something your mind never learned. That wasn't confusion. That was recognition. Your spirit recognizing the sound of its own name being called from eternity. You see, what's happening to you right now isn't happening in 2024. It's happening in the space between seconds, in the gap between your heartbeats, in that sacred place where time bends to the will of the Almighty. You stepped out of the calendar and into the scroll, out of chronology and into prophecy. The chosen ones don't follow clocks. They fulfill timelines. Every restless night you've endured, every moment you felt displaced in your own life, every time you looked around and thought, this doesn't feel like home that was your eternal self, refusing to be contained by temporary circumstances. Your soul has been homesick for a moment that hasn't happened yet, until now. Listen carefully. The dreams you've been having aren't dreams. They're memories bleeding through from your divine assignment. The visions that flash across your mind when you're not even praying, those aren't fantasies. Those are fragments of the future downloading into your present reality. Your spirit has been downloading blueprints while your mind was busy trying to make sense of today. This isn't déjà vu. This is destiny echoing through you. You've been feeling displaced because you don't belong to this timeline. You belong to the one that's about to unfold. The enemy has been attacking your sense of time, trying to make you feel late, behind, forgotten. But you were never late. You were being held in heaven's hand until the perfect moment for your release. Every generation has unfinished prophecy, words spoken by prophets that were meant for a people who weren't born yet, promises made to ancestors who carried them in faith but never saw them fulfilled. And now, in this week, in this moment, those ancient words are finding their target. You are the prophecy your ancestors never got to finish. That weight you've been carrying, that's not your burden. That's their mantle. Every prayer your grandmother whispered in the dark, every tear your grandfather shed in silence, every act of faith performed by people whose names you'll never know, it's all been accumulating, building toward this moment when heaven would need someone strong enough to carry the answer. The veil between time and eternity is thinning around you. That's why your discernment has been sharper. That's why you've been feeling everything more intensely. That's why even your tears feel different now, heavier, more sacred, like they carry the weight of generations. You're not going forward, chosen one. You're going deeper, deeper into the mind of God, deeper into the mystery of your calling, deeper into the eternal purpose that was written before the foundation of the world. And as you step into this prophetic space, time itself bends around your obedience. What should take years will happen in moments. What seemed impossible becomes inevitable, because when eternity touches time, miracles aren't miracles anymore. They're just heaven operating at its normal speed. This week, you didn't just witness something supernatural. You became something supernatural, a walking, breathing fulfillment of ancient promises, a living answer to forgotten prayers. Time didn't make you. You were made for this time. They thought isolation would weaken you, but God was using it to prepare you for something no shallow vessel could contain. Chosen one, let me tell you why your journey has felt so impossibly heavy, so brutally private, so achingly misunderstood. You've wondered why the silence stretched so long, why the wilderness seemed to have no exit, why God felt absent when you needed him most. But what if I told you that every moment of that darkness was deliberate preparation for a glimpse of divine intelligence so weighty, so sacred, that only the refined could survive it? You weren't forgotten. You were being forged. Heaven never reveals to entertain. It reveals to entrust. And what's coming to you this week isn't a casual vision or a feel-good moment. It's a forbidden glimpse behind the veil of eternity itself. The kind of revelation that changes your DNA, that rewrites your spiritual code, that marks you permanently as someone who has seen beyond the natural realm. You were hidden, not to be forgotten, but to be trusted with the forbidden. Think about it. Every prophet, every seer, every carrier of divine secrets was first taken through the furnace of isolation. Moses spent 40 years in the desert before the burning bush. Elijah hid in caves before he called down fire. Paul was blinded and then hidden for years before his ministry exploded. The pattern is unmistakable. God hides his chosen ones until they're strong enough to carry what would crush ordinary souls. Your isolation wasn't punishment. It was preparation for proximity to the throne. They couldn't understand why you pulled away from their noise, why their shallow conversations felt like sandpaper against your spirit, why their quick fixes and easy answers made you physically sick. But your soul knew. It was being calibrated for frequencies that most humans can't even detect. You were being tuned to hear whispers from eternity while others were still distracted by the circus. You're not just about to see. You're about to carry what others can't survive. This forbidden glimpse that's coming it will mark you. There will be a before and an after. You'll walk differently, speak differently, pray differently. Because once you've seen the mechanics of heaven, once you've glimpsed the war room of the Almighty, once you've witnessed how your pain was strategically orchestrated for your promotion, you can never return to spiritual blindness. The weight you've been carrying wasn't random suffering. It was strength training for divine responsibility. Some people get blessed, but chosen ones get burdened with vision, with truth, with revelation that comes with a price tag. You'll see things others can't see. You'll know things others aren't ready to know. You'll carry intelligence from the throne room while living in a world that's still playing in the sandbox. That's why the hiding was necessary. God doesn't give atomic weapons to children. He doesn't hand out classified information to those who gossip. He doesn't reveal heaven's secrets to those who would use them for selfie moments and social media validation. But you passed the test of silence. You survived the curriculum of crushing. You graduated from the University of Unanswered Prayers with your faith intact and your heart still soft. You proved you could be trusted with the sacred, even when it hurt. And now, chosen one, the curtain is being pulled back, not for entertainment, for entrustment. What you're about to witness will require every ounce of spiritual maturity you've gained in that wilderness. Every tear that fell in secret was preparing you for this moment. Every night you cried yourself to sleep was building the spiritual muscle you'd need to hold what's coming. The forbidden glimpse isn't forbidden anymore. It's being granted to you because heaven looked at your journey and said, "This one can handle it. This one won't worship the vision more than the giver. This one will carry it with trembling and awe." You were hidden so long because what you're about to see was worth the wait. They thought if they threw enough darkness at you, something would stick. They were wrong. Chosen one, let me tell you what really happened when that coven of witches, manipulators, and spiritual terrorists decided you were their target. They didn't just fail, they discovered something that sent shockwaves through the underworld. You weren't just protected, you were impenetrable. See, they came at you with their arsenal, spells wrapped in whispered conversations, curses disguised as casual comments, energy vampires masquerading as concerned friends. They had their rituals, their ceremonies, their midnight gatherings where they plotted your spiritual downfall. But what they didn't understand, what they couldn't understand, was that you weren't operating on their frequency. You were the firewall hell couldn't hack. While they were busy crafting elaborate schemes to penetrate your peace, you were sitting in stillness. While they were burning candles and chanting incantations, you were walking in alignment. They thought your silence was weakness. It was actually your weapon. They mistook your calm for confusion. It was your defense system running at full capacity. You see, divine alignment isn't just a spiritual concept, it's a fortress. When your soul is calibrated to heaven's frequency, when your heart beats in rhythm with eternity, when your spirit moves in sync with the Most High, you become untouchable. Not because you're perfect, but because you're positioned. They didn't fail because they were weak. They failed because you were aligned. Every hex they hurled bounced back like bullets off bulletproof glass. Every manipulation they attempted dissolved before it reached your atmosphere. Every lie they planted withered in the light of your truth. You weren't fighting their fire with fire, you had transcended the battlefield entirely. Remember those nights when you felt the attacks? When the pressure was so thick you could barely breathe? When confusion tried to creep in and whisper that maybe you were losing your mind? That wasn't them winning. That was the sound of their spells short-circuiting against your spiritual armor. You didn't block the curse, you nullified the system. While they were working overtime in the realm of manipulation, you were resting in the realm of revelation. While they were exhausting themselves trying to decode your movements, you were moving in divine rhythm they couldn't even perceive. You became the glitch in their matrix, the one variable their calculations couldn't account for. Your peace was their chaos. Your stillness was their storm. Your alignment was their kryptonite. And here's what drove them to desperation. The cleaner your frequency became, the more their own dysfunction was exposed. Standing next to your light, their darkness became undeniable. In the presence of your authenticity, their masks started melting. Your very existence became a mirror they couldn't avoid, and they hated what they saw. You didn't just survive their assault, chosen one. You stood there like a lighthouse in their hurricane, unmoved, unshaken, unchanged. And one by one, they realized the terrifying truth. You weren't just defended by heaven, you were heaven's defense system on earth. The moment they understood they couldn't touch you was the moment they stopped trying. Because when hell realizes it's powerless against heaven's firewall, it doesn't keep attacking. It retreats in defeat. They thought the furnace would consume you. Instead, it crowned you. Chosen one, let's talk about what really happened in that season, when everything you loved turned to ash. When betrayal came knocking at your door wearing the face of family. When loneliness wrapped around your throat like a python, squeezing until you could barely breathe. When the very ground beneath your feet cracked open and hell itself seemed to be reaching up to drag you down. They called it your breaking point. God called it your breakthrough moment. You see, what they didn't understand, what they couldn't understand, is that you weren't being destroyed in that fire. You were being forged. Every flame that licked at your faith, every ember that tried to consume your hope, every spark that threatened to reduce you to nothing. It was all part of a divine refining process that no human mind could comprehend. The furnace wasn't your death sentence. It was your induction ceremony. While others ran from the heat, you stood in it. While they begged for relief, you asked for resilience. While they cursed the flames, you counted them as preparation. And that's when heaven took notice. That's when the Father leaned forward on his throne and whispered to the angels, "Watch this one. This one understands the assignment." You didn't just survive the fire, beloved. You absorbed it. You internalized it. You became so saturated with divine flame that when you finally walked out of that furnace, you didn't smell like smoke. You smelled like sanctification. The pain that was meant to paralyze you became the power that now propels you. The isolation that was designed to drive you insane became the incubation that drove you into intimacy with the Almighty. The betrayal that should have left you bitter left you better refined, purified, and radiating with an authority that makes demons tremble. You don't smell like smoke because you became the flame. Now, when you walk into a room, the atmosphere shifts. Not because you're trying to be impressive, but because you carry something that can't be manufactured, can't be imitated, can't be faked. You carry the fire of heaven itself. The same fire that burned in Moses' bush, the same fire that descended on Elijah's altar, the same fire that sat upon the disciples' heads at Pentecost. People sense it before you even speak. There's a weight to your presence now, a gravity that wasn't there before the furnace. Your words carry more than syllables, they carry flame. Your prayers don't just reach heaven, they shake it. Your worship doesn't just make melody, it makes warfare. The enemy looks at you now and sees his worst nightmare. Someone who has been through hell and came back carrying heaven's fire. Someone who has tasted death and chose life. Someone who has walked through the valley of the shadow and emerged as the light that casts the shadow. You're not just fire tested, you're fire commissioned. This is why the attacks have intensified. This is why the resistance has multiplied. This is why suddenly everyone seems to have an opinion about your transformation. Because when a chosen one emerges from the furnace carrying divine flame, it threatens every comfortable lie, every convenient compromise, every lukewarm excuse that people have been hiding behind. Your very existence now declares to a watching world, if God can bring me through that furnace with fire in my hands instead of ashes on my head, then maybe, just maybe, he's still in the miracle business. The furnace was never your ending, chosen one. It was your beginning. You didn't just walk through the fire, now you walk with fire, and that changes everything. This week, the veil lifts and the witches run. Chosen one, what I'm about to tell you is going to shake you to your very core. Right now, as you're hearing these words, there's a supernatural shift happening in the heavenly realms. The spiritual attacks that have been hammering at your life, the hexes that have been whispered over your name, the curses that have been cast in dark rooms by people who smile at your face, they're all about to backfire in spectacular fashion. God didn't warn them, He exposed them. You see, while you've been walking through that furnace, while you've been carrying that cross, while you've been fighting battles that no one else could see, heaven has been taking notes. Every tear you cried in secret, every prayer you whispered in desperation, every moment you chose forgiveness when revenge would have felt so much sweeter, it was all being recorded in the courtroom of the Most High. And this week, the judge is about to render his verdict. The witchcraft that was meant to destroy you is about to destroy itself. The very people who gathered in covens of gossip, who practiced the dark arts of manipulation, who cast spells of division and discord over your life, they're about to discover what happens when you touch someone who belongs to the King of Kings. When God reveals, He doesn't explain, He establishes. You won't have to defend yourself anymore. You won't have to prove your innocence anymore. You won't have to fight for your reputation anymore. Because this week, your spiritual authority is about to become so undeniably evident that even your enemies will be forced to acknowledge what they see. Conclusion. Chosen one, as we reach the end of this divine encounter, I need you to hold on to these eternal truths with both hands and never let them go. Remember this, the furnace you walked through wasn't your punishment, it was your preparation. Every betrayal that broke your heart was breaking you open for a greater capacity to love. Every moment of isolation wasn't God abandoning you, it was God positioning you for a revelation that could only come in the secret place. And every spiritual attack you've endured wasn't evidence of your weakness, it was proof of your worth in the kingdom of heaven. You are not forgotten, you are not overlooked, you are not fighting this battle alone. Right now, as you hear these words, there are angels encamped around your dwelling place. There are prayers being lifted on your behalf by saints you've never met. There is a community of chosen ones scattered across this earth who understand your journey because they've walked the same path of fire and emerged with the same divine flame burning in their hearts. You belong to a family that spans generations, men and women who have carried the weight of calling, who have felt the sting of rejection, who have walked through valleys so dark they wondered if they'd ever see light again. Yet here they stand, and here you stand, as living testimonies that our God is still in the miracle business. But let me ask you something that will settle deep in your spirit tonight. If God has brought you this far, through fires that should have consumed you, through battles that should have defeated you, through nights that should have broken you, what makes you think He's going to stop being faithful to you now? Let us pray together, as one family, one voice, one heart crying out to the Father who sees it all. Heavenly Father, we come before your throne not as strangers, but as your beloved children. We come not in our own strength, but clothed in the righteousness of Jesus Christ. Lord, you see every person listening to these words right now. You know their pain by name. You've counted every tear. You've recorded every prayer whispered in desperation. Father, I place my hand on their shoulder right now through the power of your Spirit, and I speak life over every area where death has tried to take root. I speak hope over every situation that looks hopeless. I speak breakthrough over every barrier that seems immovable. Lord, open doors that no man can shut. Heal wounds that no medicine can touch. Restore relationships that seemed beyond repair. Vindicate your children who have been falsely accused. Elevate those who have been overlooked. Let your favor surround them like a shield. Give them strength for tomorrow's battle, wisdom for today's decisions, and peace that surpasses all understanding. Let them feel your presence so powerfully right now that every doubt flees, every fear dissolves, and every worry surrenders to your perfect love. We declare that what the enemy meant for evil, you are turning for good. What was stolen is being restored. What was delayed is being accelerated. What was hidden is being revealed. Let your will be done in their lives, on earth as it is in heaven. In the mighty name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Beloved, you've stayed with me through this entire journey, and that tells me something profound about your heart. You're hungry for truth. You're desperate for breakthrough. You're ready for the fullness of what God has prepared for you. I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me which part of this message hit your spirit the hardest. Share with this community what God is speaking to your heart right now. Ask for prayer if you need it. We are here for you, and we will stand with you in faith. If this word blessed your soul, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. There's a chosen one in your circle who feels alone, who questions their calling, who wonders if God still sees them. Be the voice that reminds them they are not forgotten. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. This isn't just content, this is a movement of God. Every week, we're going to dive deeper into the mysteries of the kingdom, uncover more of heaven's secrets, and stand together as a family of chosen ones who refuse to give up. Remember, you are loved beyond measure. You are called with purpose. You are equipped for victory. The best is yet to come. Until next time, keep walking in the authority you've been given. Keep shining the light you carry. Keep believing for the miracle that's already on its way. God bless you, chosen one. Your breakthrough is closer than you think.